Hello, everyone. If you're a clinician, a patient, or simply following the recent headlines in the wellness space, you've likely heard that the regulatory landscape for peptides is shifting. I'm Tim, pharmacist with Redline Compounding Pharmacy, and we are getting a lot of questions on this, so I wanted to give you an update on what's actually happening. Following recent statements from HHS Secretary RFK Jr., the FDA has issued a formal notice that moves several high-interest peptides into a new phase of regulatory review. Many believe this action is to rein in the booming gray and black market peptides people are using. While this news is being met with enthusiasm, it is important to separate the procedural milestones from the final outcomes. Today, we're breaking down what has actually changed and what clinicians and patients should expect over the next year. But before we do, here's a little primer on what peptides actually are. Peptides are short chains of amino acids. Amino acids are the fundamental building blocks of proteins. While proteins like collagen and insulin are long, complex chains, peptides typically consist of between 2 and 40 amino acids. Because of their smaller size, they can often be more easily absorbed by the body or targeted towards specific biological functions. In a medical context, they are often administered as sterile injections. The body naturally produces around 7,000 peptides that govern biological processes, and naturally occurring peptides can't be patented by pharmaceutical companies. Unlike the most famous peptides of all, semaglutide and tirzepatide, which have been modified from their natural form to have a longer effect. The FDA is currently reviewing several peptides due to their diverse range of potential clinical applications. Compounds like BPC-157 and TB-500 are often studied for wound healing and tissue repair. Cmax is under review for its potential effects on cerebral ischemia. MOTC is being evaluated for its role in metabolic regulation. Peptides like DSIP are being looked at for treating insomnia and opioid withdrawal. Because peptides influence biological signaling, the FDA monitors them closely for immunogenicity, which is the risk of an immune response, and impurities. The goal of the upcoming regulatory meetings is to ensure that if these substances are used, they are produced with pharmaceutical-grade ingredients in a safe, controlled environment. On April 16, 2026, the FDA announced that the Pharmacy Compounding Advisory Committee, or PCAC, also known as the PCAC, will convene this July to evaluate 7 peptides for potential inclusion on the 503A bulk drug substance list. This is a critical 2-day event. On July 23rd, the committee will review BPC-157, KPV, TB-500, and MOTC. On July 24th, they will turn their attention to DSIP, Cmax, and epitalin. These substances are being reviewed for a range of clinical applications, including wound healing, ulcerative colitis, opioid withdrawal, and insomnia. Furthermore, the FDA has already slated a second review for February 2027 to address 5 additional compounds, including GHKCU and melanotan 2. For those wondering why this is happening now, we have to look back at the 2023 restrictions. At that time, many of these peptides were placed in Category 2. This designation effectively barred them from compounding due to concerns over safety signals and a lack of robust human data. The new announcement removes these substances from Category 2, allowing them to be formally reevaluated. However, it is a common misconception that they are now approved. In reality, they were never authorized to be compounded with. This July meeting is simply the first step in a formal process to determine if they meet the criteria for safe, regulated compounding. For clinicians managing patient expectations, it is important to note that this is not an overnight change. Even if the committee issues a favorable recommendation this July, the FDA must still engage in a formal notice and comment rulemaking process. This typically takes a year or more to finalize. Additionally, there is the matter of the supply chain. Federal law requires that bulk substances used in compounding come from FDA-registered facilities and meet pharmaceutical-grade standards. Because these substances have been in a regulatory gray area for so long, The infrastructure to produce compliant medical-grade peptides at scale is still being developed. The bottom line, the era of unregulated gray market peptides may be coming to an end, but the era of fully regulated compounded peptide therapy is just beginning its formal journey. For those who want to participate in this process, the FDA is accepting public comments on these specific peptides until July 9th. Whether you are a provider or patient, your clinical experience and data are a vital part of this process. We will continue to track these developments at Redline Compounding Pharmacy through the July hearings. Thank you for watching.